Hello readers, I'm Amy, back for another pre-filmed video because I'm on a roll. This is my second day in a row of filming. Oh my goodness, life-changing. Anyways, I've been wanting to do another one of these videos for a while. I love doing these. I've only done it twice before. I want to recommend books to TV show characters. So far I have done The Friends, which I'm still super proud of those book recommendations. And a couple months ago I recommended books to the Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and so today, in celebration of having finished the latest season, it was a very short season, of Grace and Frankie, meaning I finished it like a couple months ago and I wrote notes and just haven't filmed yet, I am going to be recommending books to the cast of Grace and Frankie. This is quite a list. It's more than like the 6 friends that I recommended, and I don't think I recommended this many books for the Brooklyn Nine-Nine either, but I wanted to do more than just like the main set of characters because I had a couple of book ideas. So we're just going to start from the top of my notes. These aren't in any particular order. Grace and Frankie are of course the first ones that I wrote down, and then I just kind of went from there and wrote them as I thought of them. So let's go ahead and get started. Also, please, in the comments, let me know, what do you think of Grace and Frankie? Do you think that the show needs to kind of hit a stop because I feel like they're getting a little bored and you can see it a little bit in the storylines that they're adding? And what books would you recommend to these characters? Also, if you happen to be wondering, why so pink today, Amy? I don't know. This is my thick sweater. It was going to be a chilly day, and this sweater just makes me want to go all out pink because it is so vibrantly pink. So pink, I guess. Let's get started with this. For Grace, our titular character, and actually before I recommend books, I should explain a little bit of the show if you're not familiar, which hopefully if you're watching this video, you're familiar with the show. Basically, Grace and Robert are married to each other, and Frankie and Saul are married to each other. It ends up Saul and Robert have been having an affair with each other for like 11 years and decide to get a divorce, and that's all in the first episode, and it takes off from there. Grace is of course played by Jane Fonda. She is talent, she is beauty, she is amazing. One of the goddesses of the celebrity world. Grace, where is my book for Grace? I have my book for Grace. I'm going to do kind of a Halloween recommendation for this. I think that Grace would get a kick out of something like My Best Friend's Exorcism. Not exactly her style, I know. It's about an exorcism. Grace is much more straight-edged than that. This might be, you might be thinking like, oh, why aren't you recommending this to Frankie? This is more Frankie's style, where it's weird, it's kooky, it's witchy. I want to recommend this to Grace because this book is essentially about friendship. Yes, there's the 80s, yes, there's an exorcism, and there's creepiness and horror, but the essence of this book, the thing that people love so much about My Best Friend's Exorcism, is the friendship between the two main characters. And I think that in reading this friendship, she might find a lot of herself and Frankie and their relationship, and just be like, yeah, this friend might be different from me, but she's always there. She's always supporting me through everything, and I would do anything for her. So, as far as friendship reads, I think Grace should totally pick this up sometime. Now, as for Frankie, I'm not gonna hold up the book because I'm lazy, and the book is under my entire stack here on the shelf. And I'm sure when I'm editing this, I'm just gonna be like, girl, you could have just picked up your book off of the shelf from the bottom of the stack. But no, I'm just gonna make editing Amy pop it in here. To Frankie, I would like to recommend the 5th season. The 5th season is complicated, to say the least. It is essentially a fantasy series. It's kind of a dystopia series. It almost makes me wonder if it takes place a couple thousand years after our current time, but you have some people who are normal and just trying to live through this world of natural disasters, namely earthquakes, and you have some people who can control those earthquakes, and I think she would like the magic system of it. I think she would like the travel and the wandering and trying to find your place in society while never really fitting in society. I think she would just have the best time with this series. Like, the magic is so cool and earthy, and it draws from a lot of different kinds of Black culture and different places of Black culture. It's written, of course, by N.K. Jemisin. She is a wonderful artist, and she is an artist, a wonderful writer who pulls from so many different parts of Black history and culture. And Frankie also, if you're not aware, has a very mixed family. She has adopted her sons and tries to take all these different cultures into consideration when she's moving about the world, and I think that she would really love these books. Next up on my list is actually one of my least favorite kind of main characters, and that would be Nick. Nick is Grace's new husband. I don't love him as a character. He's like the not all men kind of guy, where like he's trying to be nice. He is essentially the patriarchy in one man. He's really not that great, but he thinks of himself as better than all the other guys, and he's just got that rich dude thing going on. I don't know. I don't really particularly like Nick, and the book that I am going to recommend, I never actually finished it. I had started it at one point and wasn't into it at that whenever I was reading it for whatever reason. But I would recommend to Nick Mediocre: The Dangerous Legacy of White Male America. This book is basically about white men and just how they create dangerous setups for the people around them, be it women or people of color or other diverse groups. Like, it's about the patriarchy in a book. And like I said, I didn't finish it, but I do essentially know what the book's about. And also, when I think of Nick, I think mediocre. You're very mediocre as a person. I don't really like you that much. Maybe you should read about how mediocre you are. Then, next one I have up on my list is Noah Boudica, or as we know him, Bud. Bud is a weird character for me. I feel like I know him, but I don't really know him. Like, he's got this very, like, hands-off, I don't want to deal with it kind of character. His wife is a whole other thing, but like, you know, he's trying to be warm and he's trying to have those relationships, but he's also just like, he's not the touchy-feely guy. I don't know. Bud is a weird guy, but I think that a good recommendation for him, this is a book that I read and finished, would be Group. I read this a while ago. I think, if I remember correctly, it was largely centered around an eating disorder, which I don't think Bud has, from what I can tell in the storyline. But basically, Bud, you need therapy. You need to talk about your history. You need to talk about your relationships. You need to talk about why you have the tendencies that you do. Like, you try to keep it all bottled up, and you just need to not do that. Just let it out, dude. It's okay. Expression is healthy. And I want him to read Group so that he can be encouraged to go to therapy, be it on his own or as a group. I think he would hate it. I don't know that he would particularly enjoy this book, but I think he should read it regardless. If I also remember correctly, I believe this book is from the perspective of a lawyer, but she's basically just diving into every little thing that comes up in therapy that she doesn't think that she needs to work on, that she ends up needing to work on, and the hope is that Bud would read this book and make some self-discoveries, you know? Next up, we have Coyote. Coyote is so good. He's one of my favorites. He's so sweet. He's coming down off of a long history of addiction. He still has those stories where it's like, well, this one time when I was high on cocaine, this thing happened. And he's trying so hard to rebuild his relationships with his family and to have healthy relationships and to just find love in whatever form it may take. And because of that, I would like to recommend that he read Fangs. This is by Sarah Anderson. If you look at some of the artwork in this book, You may recognize her from like some of those Facebook cartoons and stuff. But this is a romantic little graphic novel about a werewolf and a vampire. And I don't want to say anything else because it's cute and it's sweet and I love it. It's not necessarily a story, it's more like snippets from a relationship put together into a book. But Coyote doesn't seem like he is a teacher, but he doesn't seem like he would want to spend a lot of time reading books. He seems like more the kind of person who wants to go out and just enjoy life. So I like that this is short and it's digestible and it's cute and it's romantic and it's this little thing that you can take with you anywhere you go. And I really think Coyote would love this book, so I would love to recommend this to him. I'm talking as if these characters are actually going to listen to my recommendations. They're fictional. I know. I'm aware. Then we have Robert. Dear Robert. Robert is very much the lawyer that he is. He loves his plays. He's very theatrical. He's very by the book, by the rules. He's another character, I really don't like him that much. Kind of like Bud, where he's stuck in his own zone. He's a little stuck up. He's very into himself. I don't love Robert. I don't have anything that interesting to recommend him, honestly, but I just decided to look at things that I think would be of interest to him rather than things that I think he needs to read, because there's so much he has to learn and I don't know what to pick from that. So instead I decided to go for his personal interests. Being super into Shakespeare and theater, I assume he's probably already read these, but I would recommend them regardless. I am going to recommend the Iliad and the Odyssey. These are classics in literature, which I think he would appreciate. They're very much like this dramatic story. They're probably a play at some point. I know they're movies. Just you've got all of these different adventures that you're going on, and I think you would have a good time even like reading through it out loud or performing the pieces as he reads them. I just think you would have a good time, and I honestly didn't know what else to recommend for him. He's a very interesting person, but also very uninteresting. Does that make sense? I'm sorry if you like Robert. I just don't. He's not my character. Then we have Saul. Saul is another, not a favorite of mine, but I do really enjoy him. Like, my heart warms up a little bit whenever I see him on screen. He is the oddball lawyer. He is married to Frankie, was married to Frankie, so of course he's an oddball. But he is also a lawyer. I'm sure that he and Robert relate somehow. Although, unpopular opinion about the show, I really don't think that Saul and Robert make that great of a couple. They're just so different. I don't really understand how their dynamic works. Is that an unpopular opinion? I don't know. Anyways, book recommendation for Saul. I would like to recommend a book that I just recently finished, and that would be Dial A for Aunties. Saul is the kind of guy who likes to have a little fun and not take himself too seriously, but he is still a man of the law. So I think he would have so much fun reading this little mystery about this accidental murder and how this oddball family who just picks at each other still manages to get along and come together and support each other. It's quirky, it's fun, it's family-based, it's got some murder, it's got some mystery. I think he would have a good time. Also, being married to Frankie, he is a man of culture, and I love the author's exploration of culture in this book. She writes this whole introduction to the book on how, in the book, the Asian aunties, the mothers, the grandmother, the aunties, have accents, and here is why they have accents. And it's not related to whether or not they're educated enough, it's just related to their culture and the way they approach the world. And I loved that introduction and the explanation of why accents were used, and I think that he would have such a good time with this book. I really do believe that. Mallory. Again, Mallory's not a character that I'm a huge fan of. I like her more than Robert and Bud, for sure. But again, you've kind of got two sides of characters with this show. You've got the quirky ones, and you've got the ones who are like, nope, hands off, don't touch, don't want anything to do with it, keep me out of it. I like a character who wants to be involved. And Mallory, I would like to recommend, if If I can remember where I put my book. Okay, I'm gonna be lazy again. Editing Amy, pop it in here. Queenie is at the bottom of my pile of books, all the way across the room on that shelf. So I would like to recommend that Mallory pick up Queenie. Again, this is a book recommendation where I don't know that she would actually enjoy it that much. Queenie is not necessarily a likable character. She makes a lot of mistakes. She's very critical of herself. She has trouble seeing value in herself. But I also think that that's Mallory as well. While she might not enjoy this book, I think she would relate to it, where she struggles to find the value in herself, but like it's there and she just needs to discover it and to work on it. And Queenie also, this book is all about setting boundaries, learning where are my boundaries, I need to set them, I need to draw that line, and that's very much something that Mallory needs to practice and tries to learn throughout this series. So I would like to recommend that she read Queenie and maybe she would learn something. Then we have Brianna. I love Brianna. I love Brianna so much. She is such a good character. She's horrible, obviously. Like, Brianna is not a good person, but she's not a good person in a funny way. She has confidence in herself. She knows what she likes. She knows what she wants. She knows what she doesn't want anything to do with, and she's not afraid to let anyone know about it. I would hate her if I met her in real life, because I don't like people who are that forward and blunt. But as a character, man, I just get a kick out of her. I will say though, if there is one thing that Brianna is really, really bad at, besides generally being nice to people, it's emotions. She's not great at processing emotions, at understanding what her emotions mean, at dealing with her emotions, and at dealing with the emotions of others in particular. And I would actually like to recommend Pet Sematary. If you've seen the movies and not read the book, then you know nothing about this story. Honestly, I haven't seen the first movie, but I saw the second one. Like, it's fine, but Pet Sematary is not just a horror about resurrecting a cat. Pet Sematary is about grief. It's about dealing with the emotions and processing the emotions and letting the emotions control you instead of you trying to manage them in a healthy way. And I think this would be a fantastic book for her to read. I don't know if she would understand the underlying metaphor of grief, but I think it would be good for her to try. And also, she honestly seems like the kind of person who would have a lot of fun reading a horror book. She seems to like to watch disasters happen and take joy in that. And if nothing else, she would like that. Also, the audiobook for this is read by the guy who plays Dexter, who is very cute, and his voice is just gold. Best audiobook I have ever read is his audio for Pet Sematary, and she would enjoy looking at pictures of him while listening to the audiobook of his sexy, sexy voice. So there are many advantages to Brianna deciding to pick this book up, if she would, which she won't, because she's fictional, and I know that. Barry. Barry, I don't know how I feel about Barry. Where is my book for Barry? Nah. Here's my book for Barry. Barry, I neither like nor dislike. He's there. I don't know that I find him particularly interesting, but I do think that he is very good for Brianna, that he has a lot of lessons to teach her. I do think that in many ways he doesn't quite understand Brianna as much as he should at this point in their relationship, but regardless, I like them as a couple. And being the, what is he being? The accountant for the company or something? I feel like I would want to recommend Quality Land to him. Quality Land is about technology and packaging and capitalism and the industry, and I feel like as an accountant type person he would take some interest in that. Also, he likes to lighten up the mood with a little bit of humor, and this book is nothing if not funny. This book is almost more of a parody than it is a sci-fi. Like, it's so hilarious. It's by a German author, Marc-Uwe Kling? I've said it a couple of times in other videos. I think I've done a slightly better job. But this is a book about people who it's like the industry, the company knows what you want to buy before you do, and so they send it to you. And this guy gets his package one day, and he's like, I don't want this. And he can't return it because everything is run by robots, and the robots automatically reset every time he tries to return something, and it's frustrating, and it's hilarious, and it's a commentary on capitalism, and somehow I think that Barry would just love this. And lastly, another book that is at the bottom of the pile across the room, I am going to be recommending a book for Allison. Allison is another oddball. I don't know that I particularly like her. I like her more than I used to. Whenever the character of Allison was first introduced, she's very much a hypochondriac, a bit of a control freak. Like she's kind of scary as a person, honestly. But as the show has gone on, I've warmed up to her a little bit. I have like a better understanding of her. I've come to be more accepting of her as a character. I would like to recommend My Sister's Keeper. Many of you have probably read this. Perhaps you've seen the movie with Cameron Diaz. It was fine. The ending was way different from the book. But I think this is another one. It would be good for Allison. I don't know that she would enjoy herself. It's very emotional. I mean, I think she would enjoy herself to a certain extent. Like, she's the kind of emotional person who I think would take a lot out of something like this book. But essentially, one of our main characters was born solely for the purpose of saving her sister, because her sister has cancer, and our main character was kind of picked out because her genes were the most similar. She would be the best donor, and therefore she was grown, she was born into the world. It's this whole complicated thing with IVF. It's a whole statement on IVF and designer babies, and it's fascinating. And also because of her medical history and her hypochondria, I think she would take a lot of interest in the medical side of things and kind of seeing how this person's life is taken advantage of, and I think that she would relate to some of that. Very emotional, but she seems like someone who's in a good relationship with her emotions, which is a good thing, because that's what most of the rest of these characters are kind of lacking, is they don't know how to deal with problems. That's gonna be it for this video. Hopefully it isn't too long. I feel like I'm gonna cut a lot of this out because I'm recording. I'm rambling a lot. Like, I'm a little out of practice. It's been a little while since I've done a steady set of filming, but I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have any TV show characters that you would like me to recommend books to, put them down in the comments. I will gladly look through them. I've been wanting to do a Sex and the City one for a little while, but it's like they keep bringing out more movies and they keep continuing the show, and my recommendations would be more for the original show, and it's like, I'm sure by the time the new show comes out, the characters would have evolved a little bit, and like, I don't quite see the point in that just yet. But regardless, if you have recommendations for shows that you want book recommendations for, I don't know if I said that as a correct sentence. Regardless, leave a comment down below. Please like, subscribe, be my friend on social media, and I will catch all of you in my next video. Bye, friends.